Yugoslavia is a country that existed in the western central part of the Balkan Peninsula from 1929 until 2003. The federation was made up of various ethnic states, including Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, North Macedonia, Montenegro, Serbia, which included the regions of Kosovo, and Slovenia. Yugoslavia was ruled by communist strongman Josip Tito from 1944 until his death in 1980. During the time from Tito's death until after the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991, the various states vied for independence. Croatia's fervor for independence can be traced back to the Croatian Spring of 1971, a movement in which citizens began to revolt against the federation and nationalism took center stage once again. This desire for independence would continue to grow until when, in 1991, Croatia declared independence, and all hell broke loose. In July of 1991, the Yugoslav People's Army, mainly composed of Serbs and led by Serbian President Slobodan Milosevic, invaded Croatia. The People's Army tried to control Croatia by occupying its land. Serbian forces justified their actions, saying they were trying to protect the Serbian minority in Croatia.
Has that reputation, but because you have also to remember that winners are writing history.
There were roughly 6 separate Yugoslav conflicts in the 1990s between the ethnic states, resulting in the dissolution of Yugoslavia. The first war was the Croatian War of Independence. The war was strife with ethnic conflict and ultimately cleansing, resulting in the genocide of Croats and Bosnians. These horrors especially propelled the EU and NATO to get involved with diplomatic and ultimately military power. Diplomacy and international intervention influenced the events of the Croatian War of Independence and ultimately helped to end the conflict. In September 2021, I went to Croatia with my family and met Marko, a Croatian journalist who showed us around the inside of Dubrovnik's Old Town tunnels. The walls have become famous for the show Game of Thrones, and enthusiasts flock there every year to see them. But they contain a much deeper, more compelling story than that of fictitious King's Landing. In October, Serbian Yugoslav forces lay siege to Croatia's city, Dubrovnik. Marko Milos was just 4 years old when he and his mother went to Dubrovnik's Old Town tunnels to seek shelter during Serbian bombings.
So as a kid, you are looking at someone who actually lived through all that. So yeah.
Do you remember the bombings, feeling it?
I remember
being with your mom
and the sound of explosions. Really. So the bomb, when they were shelling the city, they used mortar grenades.
Right.
Yeah, a mortar is a highly pressurized grenade which, upon impact, bursts. So you can hear the sound, and that sound stays with you. So,
after 6 months of combat, the Yugoslav People's Army failed to occupy Croatia. Instead, Serb forces established the RSK, a self-proclaimed state of Serbia within Croatia.
And the most brutal bombardment was November of 1991 and December of 1991. So that's the worst thing to be at war. I mean, there is never such a thing as a good time to be at war.
During the winter.
During the winter, I mean.
During winter.
How long did it
Silence replaced gunfire when the UN brokered ceasefire took effect on January 19, 1992. On January 15, 1992, the Republic of Croatia as a sovereign state was internationally recognized by 12 countries making up the European Council. And on May 22, 1992, Croatia became a new United Nations member. After Croatia's international recognition, the United Nations Protection Force was made to curb violence. Partly due to the United Nations, violence was mostly intermittent for the next 3 years. In November of 1994, NATO responded to Serbian airstrikes by bombing Udbina, an airfield in the Serbian-held area of Croatia.
Yes, the US was kind of on our side, although in the beginning it was more not so openly, but later more openly. At the time it was Clinton administration, Bill Clinton, and Madeleine Albright was the Secretary of State. So by 1995 the US stepped in.
And then he negotiates with Tudjman, who was at that time president of Croatia. They're negotiating and they had big meetings and blah, blah, blah. And Tudjman and Milosevic wanted to actually, in order to make big Croatia and big Serbia, they were trading parts of Bosnia for that.
November 12, 1995, local negotiators in the town of Erdut signed the Erdut Accords. The key details were worked out in Dayton, Ohio by the Serbian President Milosevic and Croatian President Tudjman. President Clinton called the agreement a major step towards peace in the Balkans. The agreement meant the reabsorption of the Danube part of Croatia and rights for the local Serb minority. In 1995, Croatia launched the last two offensives of the war, Operation Flash and Operation Storm. These battles would lead Croatia to victory, but leave the country with a destroyed economy and $37 billion in damaged infrastructure. Operation Storm led to victory for Croatia. It united the country under Croat control and demolished the RSK. Military power was once again in Croatia's favor. The U.S. played a vital role in the brokering of the Dayton Accords, a peace agreement reached on November 21, 1995, between Serbia, Croatia, and Bosnia, and to outline a general framework agreement for peace in Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Let me begin on behalf of the people of the United States by thanking all of those whose labor and wisdom helped to keep hope alive during the long, dark years of war. The humanitarian relief workers, the United Nations forces from Europe and beyond. Had it not been for their dedication and their sacrifice, and I thank those whose work helped make this moment of peace possible, beginning with our host, Prime Minister Chirac, for his vigor and determination, our NATO cooperation.
The war, beginning in 1991 against Yugoslav rule, spanned 5 years until it ended in 1995. Countries of former Yugoslavia are impacted to this day by the death toll of missing persons and displaced refugees from the war. From my time in Croatia, I have learned that the subject of the Yugoslav wars are not to be taken lightly. For Croats, Serbs, and Bosnians, the combat and violence are still fresh in their minds, and the consequences of the war a raw topic. To this day, relations between Croatia and Serbia are tense.
Serbs were victims, not Croats. That's absolutely not true, because I don't know how, at least I think 500,000 of Serbs from Lika and also from Slavonia. I don't know the number, but at least 500,000 had to flee the country. They left everything, like Serbia was full of